A joint can be perfectly made and still be the wrong joint. If your project feels weak, moves unexpectedly, or doesn't hold up, the problem might not be your technique. You may have chosen the wrong joint from the beginning. One of the biggest mistakes is choosing a joint simply because it looks good. A beautiful joint isn't automatically the strongest or most practical choice. The joint needs to match the job it's supposed to do. For example, a simple butt joint can be perfectly useful for many projects. But it may not be the best choice when the joint needs more mechanical strength or resistance to movement. Another mistake is choosing a joint without considering the direction of the load. Wood joints experience forces in different directions. A joint that's suitable for one application may perform poorly in another. Think about how the finished piece will actually be used before choosing the joinery. Material thickness also matters. Some joints work better when you have enough material to create the required geometry. Trying to force a particular joint into very thin stock can weaken the piece instead of strengthening it. Pocket holes are another good example. They're fast, convenient, and extremely useful, but they're not automatically the best solution for every woodworking project. Consider the location, appearance, material, and loads involved before choosing them. Wood movement is another factor people often overlook. Natural wood can expand and contract as moisture conditions change. A joint that doesn't allow for that movement can create problems later. This is especially important when working with wider solid wood panels. Another mistake is choosing complicated joinery when a simpler joint would do the job. More complicated doesn't always mean stronger. A joint that takes hours to make isn't necessarily better than a simpler joint that provides the strength and appearance the project actually needs. Your tools and skill level matter too. A theoretically excellent joint isn't very useful if you can't produce it accurately and consistently with your available tools. Accuracy is part of joint strength. A poorly made complicated joint can be worse than a simple joint made correctly. Appearance is also important. Some joints are designed to be hidden, while others become part of the visual design. If the joint will be visible, think about how its shape, grain direction, and proportions will look in the finished project. Another common mistake is ignoring end grain. End grain connections can behave differently from long grain glue joints. Don't assume that simply applying more glue will solve the problem. Choose a joint that suits the type of connection you're making. And finally, don't choose a joint before understanding the project. Ask a few simple questions. How much strength does the joint need? Where will the load come from? Will the wood move? How thick is the material? Does the joint need to be visible? What tools do you have? And how accurately can you make it? Once you answer those questions, choosing the right joint becomes much easier. Because good joinery isn't about knowing the most joints. It's about knowing when to use each one. A butt joint, pocket hole, dowel, biscuit, mortise and tenon, or another joint can all be useful when they're matched to the right application. So before cutting your first joint, don't just ask, "Can I make this joint?" Ask, "Is this the right joint for this project?" That one question can save you time, material, and a lot of frustration. What's your favorite woodworking joint? Butt joint? Pocket hole? Dowel? Mortise and tenon? Or something else? Tell me in the comments. And subscribe for more practical woodworking tips, joinery techniques, tool comparisons, workshop mistakes, and DIY projects. Thanks for watching.